We are so happy to have everyone here, to our listeners, to everyone that's listening to the Wisdom and Bloom podcast. I am Denise, and I have with me my lovely friend and co host, Kamisha. And tonight we are bringing you another fantastic interview with our guest, Ashley Jablow. Ashley is the founder of Wayfinders Collective and creator of Life Design School, a creative studio for people in career and life transitions. She is a seasoned facilitator. She's a speaker, a coach, and a design strategist. And Ashley blends design thinking and innovation, emotional intelligence, and creative tools to spark clarity and action for teams and individuals navigating change. She's an artist, y'all. She's an author. She has written a book called 100 Days of Designing My Life. I think if she was designing my life, she would need way more than 100 days. But I'm ready to get into the conversation. 100 days would just be scratching the surface. But this is a guided journal series for reflection and reinvention. And she is the creator of the Little Deck of Sweet Reflections. And we love a good reflection. We love a great affirmation. So we're all in. It's an intuitive card deck to inspire your creativity, to connect you with your inner wisdom, and to reflect on who you are becoming. Ashley Jablow believes that life is too short to feel stuck, to feel burned out, or to be misaligned at your work. She is a former strategist at IDEO and the White House. Miss Ashley has spent the last 15 plus years applying design thinking to big, complex challenges. And now she helps people do the same thing in their lives and in their career. When she's leading a room of executives through a team value workshop or coaching a mid-career professional through a burnout recovery, Ashley Work invites people to get clear, to get creative, and to get moving forward with intention. Thank you, Miss Ashley Jablow, for joining the Wisdom and Bloom
Oh,
podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. I swear my face already hurts from smiling so much. Like all the chatting before we hit record, I'm so happy to be here with you both. Thank you.
That is so cool. I'm glad to hear that. It's going to be a lot more smiles because I feel like we are going to have a great conversation and a great time. And like I told you before the recording, I've been looking forward to this. I've been telling my son, my husband, my daughter, I think 100 days is scratching the surface, but we're going to try. We're going to try.
I never said you had to be done in 100 days. That's not what I'm selling, okay?
It's a start. It's a start.
It's a start.
100 days is a good place to start.
It's a good place to start.
Yes.
So Miss Ashley, tell us something. Tell us about yourself a little bit. Something that maybe I didn't bring out in your bio, something that we may not know about you. And then also tell us, how did you find yourself helping, others redesigning their life? How did you get here, Miss Ashley?
Yeah, well, again, it's so great to be here with you both. And how did I get here? What a great question. Sometimes I look around and wonder, really, how did this happen? So I grew up in California. I'm a proud Californian. I live in Richmond, Virginia now. So again, even that, it's like, how did I get here some days? And I've always been very ambitious. I've always been very mission driven. I have always wanted to do work that has had meaning for me personally and for my communities. And that has taken a lot of different forms and shapes over the years, including working in the Obama administration, which was absolutely a career highlight.
Yes.
So I've always wanted to do work, again, that had purpose and meaning. And I kind of randomly found myself working in innovation consulting for a lot of my career. So, how do you help organizations and teams come up with new ideas and serve their constituents more successfully?
Right.
So, I was going down one very clear career path. And building my whole life around that. When I worked at the White House, my son was like 2 years old. So I was really balancing like a very ambitious kind of like the pinnacle of a career kind of moment,
Mhm.
and figuring out like, how do I get dinner on the table by 5 o'clock kind
Yeah.
of thing. And
Which
soon after
is
oh,
supposed
go
to
ahead.
be the simple thing to do, but it's always the hardest thing
Oh
to
my
do.
God. Oh
Most
my
families
God.
end up eating at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, Yeah.
Yes, yes. Still, my son is 13 now, and we're still figuring out what's for dinner every day. I don't, it's like the age old question.
Yeah.
In any event, so I'd been working in this space of innovation. Like, how do you come up with new ideas? How do you creatively solve problems? And after leaving the White House, I moved into a role in a private sector company in a design firm. And I really thought it was my dream job.
Mhm.
And then just about a year into it, I got unexpectedly laid off.
Mhm.
Mm.
And anyone who's ever been laid off, you know what a shock to the system that is.
Yeah.
It was such a blow to my ego. And if I can be honest, I could sort of sense this like little opening, this little crack of questioning, like, wait a minute, maybe there's something different here for me.
Yeah.
And what I realized, long story short, is that all of the methods and the mindsets of innovation that I had been using in my career could actually be used for me to redesign what I was doing for work. So
Yeah.
that was sort of the starting like hypothesis, was like, what if I took everything I know how to do and I
And do
turned
it
it
for
on
me.
myself,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And that was 8 years ago when I started my business, Wayfinders Collective. And that has been really the guiding premise for all of my work as a coach, a facilitator, an author, really helping other people do this now too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Well, I
love that.
think that, this age that we are in, so we, are in our 50s ish, over 50 now. Over 50. And
Yeah.
it's one of those times in your life, I think, where you start wondering, is this all there is to life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there more that, well, at least I know I
Yeah,
came
me
to
too.
this conclusion even in my 40s,
Mhm.
Mm.
because you kind of check off a lot of the boxes, right? You get married, you have the job, you have the
Got the
kids, you have
kids.
the family, right? And you feel like, okay, I'm supposed to be feeling like this is the greatest time ever,
Mhm.
but there's still this like emptiness,
Yeah. Yeah.
there. And you're wondering, is there something else I'm supposed to be doing with my life? How else am I supposed to be serving people? And
Mhm.
there's also a little bit, I think, of a disappointment too, because
Mm.
we've been like sold this idea that when you have these things,
Yeah.
everything is supposed to be great.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
white
not.
the white picket fence, the family, the husband, the kids, the great job, the dog, all the things that is told to us in society. These are the things that are going to make you happy. And once you get those, contentment is, evident, and there's nothing else that you need, which is so
Hmm.
not true.
Hmm.
So not true.
So when you
I
get
wish
to
it
this
were.
point, I know, like when you get to this point, at least as women, you get to this point in life, where can you start to actually get back to a place where you are understanding
Hmm.
what is next for you,
Mhm.
right? I think
Hmm.
that is a pivotal point, because you said that like that was a pivotal point. There was like a
Mhm.
crack there, and maybe there doesn't have to be a job loss or a relationship loss, but that can happen too, because at this age, we do have job losses and children leaving home maybe, or there's just different changes in certain relationships,
Mhm.
and you are now questioning what is next for you
Mhm.
in
Hmm.
your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do we start taking some steps to figuring that out?
Mm. I mean, it brings me back to the question of, or the idea of, you can do it in 100 days. I
Mm,
mean, I'll be honest, when I started doing this, when I turned my own tools on myself, I
mm,
actually gave myself 90 days.
mhm,
I said,
mhm,
I'm going to figure this out in 90 days. And
mhm.
boy, what is that expression? Like, we make a plan and the universe laughs,
And
right?
yeah.
So, the reality is that this really takes time. And
Mhm,
so, when you ask Kamisha, like, how do we get started with this? I
Mhm.
think the the guidance that I would really offer is that you start by actually pausing, reflecting,
Yeah.
and being honest
Yeah.
about what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
I think what I see in my coaching practice a lot, and I'm like the front of the line. Like I am very much I struggle with this myself, but it's really easy to be like, this isn't working, so I got to go fix it, right? Like I have a
Yes.
problem and I'm just going to jump into whatever solution presents itself. Like I
Mhm.
hate my job, I'm going to go get a new
Get a
one,
new job.
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
And at the same time, like especially for those of us in our 40s and our 50s and even beyond, we want to be mindful about the moves we're making
Mhm.
because we've built lives for ourselves, right? We're not
Around that.
starting, yeah, we're not starting with a blank slate.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so really it starts with paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's something here that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
There's something here that I'm yearning for or missing or wishing was here or I'm frankly even aggravated by, right? And being able to pause and just notice it,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to fix it, which is actually quite hard to notice and not fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can notice it and you can start reflecting on it, you can then ask yourself, what's important about this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you ask what's important, like, if you're feeling, I'm trying to think of an example, frankly, from my own life. Well, whether it's been, you know, this is a tiny example, but like for a very long time with my son when he was younger, I used to get really frustrated with the bedtime routine.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're not even talking about big life design, right? We're talking about like there's this one moment in my day that I find so incredibly aggravating.
Mm-hmm.
And every night I hope it's going to be one way and
And it's
it always goes sideways, right?
Yeah.
So I could immediately go into like, well, this is the new routine and this is how we're doing it. And,
Mhm.
and newsflash, I've done that many times. It doesn't work, right? What
Mhm. There's the
actually
battle.
works,
Yeah. Mhm.
what actually works is saying like, well, let me think about what this bedtime routine is. Let
Mm-hmm.
me notice what's not working, but also what is working.
Right.
What's important about bedtime, right? Even like what do I value at bedtime? When
Mm-hmm.
you can start honestly reflecting, then you can start doing almost the right thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
So to me, that kind of segues into this because you're learning how to determine the difference between what is happening with you at that moment, with your life, even with something as simple as a bedtime routine. So, how can someone tell the difference between burnout and just a deeper need to just redesign their life?
Yeah,
How is how can you tell the
it's a
difference?
great question. I think, I was thinking on this earlier today cuz admittedly there are some aspects of my own life where I'm feeling a little burnt out these days.
Mhm.
And
And the environment, the social
mm,
environment right now lends to a very tense um,
Mhm.
time. And I
Yeah.
think that is that energy. I really feel like that energy has added to some of the feelings and angst and anxiety that we are starting to have around our lives.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I love that you use the word energy because I actually think that that is a key component if you're trying to examine like am I feeling burnt out
Mhm.
or am I ready for like a change, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
they're both feelings of discontent maybe, but they're very different animals, right?
Right.
If you're burnt out, the way I think about it is like the world is now in black and white. You can't
Yeah.
see the color, right? And
Mhm.
you don't have energy to create movement, to
Mhm.
create new ideas, or even to consider solving a problem, right?
Mm.
When, as opposed to when you are feeling unhappy in a part of your life, the question is, do you have energy to do something about it?
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's something I've been thinking about is where is your energy in
Mm.
but I'm curious what you think. Do you think that
Mhm.
am I onto something there?
I love that word energy.
Yeah.
I'm like a big energy
Yes,
person. I
she
was
is.
actually saying
Signs, energy.
I
Yeah.
was yeah, I've actually been having some challenges with a event that we
Mm,
are hosting at one of my schools.
Hmm.
And I was just saying actually the other day to one of the people that's co-organizing it with me, I said the energy is just so bad, right?
Hmm.
Like
mm,
the nothing
mhm,
is going right with this event. Things are just going completely left. Every day is a new problem with the event. And I said to myself, I need to change my energy about the event. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do anything about what's happening like with other people, but I feel like I was also dragging this event down with
Hmm.
my energy. And it really made me do what you said, kind of like reflect and be
mm,
aware. Like, okay, there are some things that are not going well, but there are some things that are not going well, but there are some things that are going well, right? And so if I start paying more attention to those things, that actually did help me kind of shift my energy. The
Yeah.
funny thing was I shifted it, and then the next time we went to rehearse, I was like, what the heck is going on? I just shifted my energy.
Yeah.
And now you're like pulling it down again. But I
yeah.
do believe though that it's important for us to like take control of that. Like it's
Yeah.
Mm,
important for us to recognize it
Yeah.
and then to take control to try and move it in a different direction, because just as you
mm,
can have a good energy and your momentum can go up, it can also like spiral down,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
in a
I
negative place that isn't
Yeah.
going to help you get
Mm,
out of that like unhappiness or that frustration or that upset or whatever that you're in, because you can't see anything else happening because now you're in all of this bad energy, negative energy
hmm
kind of
You
moving.
You
know,
know, if oh, I'm sorry, Denise, go ahead.
I was going to say my husband is a huge energy person too, huge
Mm,
energy and science person. And he's always been, I mean, we've been together 36 years and he's always talked about energy, even before the word was even popular about the transfers. And we're military, so we have potty mouths and we're very frank about what we're saying. He would always tell me that bad energy is like pissing in the pool. Everybody it touches gets hit, you know? And that energy and bad energy is exactly like that. It just poisons the water. And
It
even in
transfers. Yeah, it does. It
and
transfers.
it takes out innocent bystanders,
mm,
that a person who doesn't even have anything to do with what's surrounding you, but once you come into their space with that energy, all of a sudden now they're feeling some type of way as well, and they don't even know how it
Mhm.
happened. So that,
mhm,
energy is such a big facet of who we are. And like I said, he's been talking about this for years, but it's just been in the last 10 years that I've understood it, dealing with my own anxiety and talking to therapists and all
mm,
these things about how this energy is big. Like, you've ever walked by someone and barely touch them and feel ecstatic with them. Like the energy, it transfers so many different types of ways, and I think that we miss that. And we don't understand how to separate who we are under that energy versus what we do. Someone asked me one time, who are you? And I said, I'm a project manager, I'm this and I'm that. And they said, no, 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 that's what you do. Like,
mm.
who are you? How do you help your clients understand that? Like, who are, because I know the first time you step aboard, you don't say who you are. You literally
Say what you
say what
do,
you do.
or you like your
Yeah.
titles or
Our
roles or
titles, yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so the way I think about it is the difference between what I would call being and doing.
Mm,
So being
I love
is
those 2 words.
it's a good one, right? So being is like how we feel, it's our presence, it's how we show up, it is our energy, you might say,
hmm
right? Doing is all the action, it's all the choices, it's the decisions, it's the
Mhm,
movement, right? It's the habits.
mhm,
hmm
And the way I think about it because you're right, Denise. It's always like not who are you, but like what do you do, right?
Yeah.
That's how we always open conversations. The
Mhm.
way I think about it, and it's funny I use this example because I've never built a house before. I've
Mhm.
never done like a new construction or anything, but I imagine that it's like this, okay? So being is like the foundation of the house.
Mhm.
It is what we stand upon and
Mhm.
ground ourselves in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Doing gets built upon that foundation.
Ooh.
So when you're building a home, you can't decide like what shower fixtures are you going to use in the
Yeah.
upstairs bathroom before you've laid the concrete,
Yeah.
right? Before you've laid the foundation.
Mhm.
So being is the source of it's our starting point always.
Mhm.
How do you want to feel? How do you want to experience your day?
Mhm.
Right? I
Mhm.
was just having a conversation with someone recently, kind of about this actually, where we were talking about people who've been working in creative fields like advertising or design.
Right.
Um, and saying, oh, I need to go get like the new director role or the VP role. Like, that's what I want to do.
Mhm.
And it makes sense that we have that line of sight because that's how our culture works. That's
Right.
we're striving towards the next title, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But for people who feel lost, if you say, you know, I'm not sure if I want that promotion, but what I know I want is I want to feel creative in my next role.
Right.
And when you hear feel, you can substitute for be, right? I
Right.
want to be creative. I want to feel that vitality of creation and energy and whatever it might be, play, right? That's
Right.
how I want to be. And once I know that, then I maybe it's going for the director job. Maybe it's going to art school. Maybe it's
Yeah.
becoming an art teacher, right? It could be
Yeah.
any number of things that you quote unquote do. But when you know how you want to be, how you want to hold yourself, that's the foundation that you can then go make choices from.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love this idea of being and doing and then
Yeah.
having, because it was someone I was listening
Mm.
to, and it was the be, the do, the have. And
Yes.
lots of times
Yes.
people start with the having, right? Like, I
Mhm.
want this, I want this money, I want to live in this house, I want, all of these things.
Yeah.
And they kind of work it backwards
Mhm.
instead of doing what you say, where you actually start with who you want to be.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if, for example, you want to lose 15 pounds or
Yeah.
whatever, like,
Mhm.
you have to actually start with the kind of person
Yeah.
who pays attention to their health, right? That's the kind of
Mhm.
person I want to be. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to notice what it is I eat. I want to make sure I'm taking walks every day, right? These are the things I need to do in order to be this healthy person.
Yeah.
And then if I'm doing these habits, then I'll eventually have, weight loss and
Yeah.
better health or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But you have to
Mhm.
kind of start with who it is you want to be. And
Mhm.
you're right. I think our society doesn't really focus on that, because that's more, like you said,
Focus on the
feeling
have.
and the spiritual side. And no one wants,
Mhm.
you to be focused on that, right? They just want you to be focused kind of on the
On
execution
we
of
want to be
things.
Yeah.
focused on the shower head. We don't
Yeah.
Yes,
have
it's
nowhere
all
to
Yeah.
put it
about
yet, you
the
know.
doing, right? It's all about
Yeah.
the doing, and making sure we're, doing things.
Mhm.
But if you don't really get to the root, then you won't do those things for long,
Yeah.
right? They'll
Yeah.
just be very temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so here's something that you're both making me think of though that I
Actually,
do
you
think
sound
is
excited
worth
about what you're about to say.
I do think this is worth naming, okay? Because for some of us, like it's probably a personality test waiting to be developed, right? For some of us, we're like, I'm going to launch myself into doing,
Mhm.
and we're just going to get going. And I haven't done any of the being work to
Mhm.
know kind of how to hold myself through that, right?
Right.
Some people are like that.
Mhm.
Other people, and I will put myself in this camp because I love reflection. I love considering like what is my life's purpose? Like those kinds of questions are my jam. So I love talking about how I want to be in the world and
Yeah.
who am I and how do I hold myself every day?
Yeah.
So much so that sometimes I stay there and I don't actually take action.
Ah,
right? And so, Kamisha, to your point, like, yes, if I want to lose weight, I need to start holding myself as someone who takes care of herself and who, feels strong and confident and lean, whatever those words might be, right?
Right.
And, the funny thing is for someone like me, maybe if I just get to the gym and do that regularly, I
mhm,
will start to be in that way,
mhm,
right?
Right.
I will start to actually embody
mhm.
strength and confidence and tone or whatever it might be, right? So it's true. I stand by what I said. The foundation is being. And sometimes getting going
Mhm.
actually becomes like a virtuous cycle
The
that
being.
supports you to step into being more
Yeah.
fully.
But the having is always the end result. That,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
but for some reason we always start with the having. If I
mm,
had, if I had, if I had, but
Mm-hmm.
having is actually the component of it. It's the it's not the conduit, it's the end
yeah,
part of it. But
yeah,
Yeah.
we
yeah.
seem to always start with the having.
And I mean, no judgment there, right? Like, I would
Yeah,
love to
no, I
have a
think
whole bunch of things.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. But it's the
Right.
wish list. It's the
Mhm.
goal list, right? It's not the sort of substantive, I'm
Yeah,
going to show up in this way and take
yeah,
action from that
yeah.
place. Yeah.
Do you think at midlife 40, 50, 60, and beyond that we can continue to reinvent ourselves and redesign our lives and debunk the myths that are out there that saying we're too old, we're too invisible? Do you believe that? And also, what would be some of the first practical steps that we
Mm.
should take to start that redesigning?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely believe it. And I believe it. Again, it's getting very sort of like meta, like
Mhm.
the meaning of life. But like this is the life that we have right now,
Yeah,
right?
it
I
is.
Yeah,
I, I
that's
believe in reincarnation. I believe I've been here before and will get to be here again. And
Mhm.
also, this is my life. This is
Right.
your life. And
Mm-hmm.
so you always, in my book, have permission
Mhm.
to say, this isn't what I want. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Or even this is not it,
And
right?
I
A
want
lot
something
of,
different.
yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
said, and I want something different.
And I want something different. I mean, I was just going to say the number of women I work with who feel like, well, they come to me because they feel like they are wasting their potential.
Wow.
It's not even that they're unhappy, it's that they recognize that they're longing for more,
Yeah.
right? So I think at any age, any stage of life, if you notice that longing
Mhm.
for more, for different, for better,
Mhm.
you owe it to yourself to listen to that,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that there are a lot of myths out there that, like, you get to a certain age and you can't do it, it's too much, it's too hard.
Yeah.
I actually think that that's like redesigning your life in midlife. You actually have some competitive advantages that perhaps like a 20 something fresh out of college doesn't,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of all perspective, right? But I think first the fact that you're not brand new at this,
Yeah.
right? You've tried some things already. You've gathered some learning, right? You're not a newbie,
Mhm.
right? You're mature in that way. I also think that, one of the tendencies is to think, well, if I'm unhappy, then I have to just blow it all up.
Yeah.
And when we're in midlife, we can't do that, right? We
Mm-hmm.
just can't.
Yeah.
Well, you could, but
We
you make a big mess.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Okay. And some people do, okay, go nuts if
Yeah.
that's your style. But generally, right? Like you have families, you have obligations, you
Mhm.
need to pay your bills, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's actually, again, a competitive advantage because we do not want to blow everything up actually.
Mhm.
It's not good in
Right.
so many ways. It's not even good for our nervous systems,
Mhm.
right? To have that kind of radical implosion. What
Mhm.
we want to be doing is taking small steps.
Right.
And so in this case, these constraints of I can't start from scratch, or I need a job that I'm still able to be home for family dinner,
Mhm.
right? That kind of thing is typically seen as such a constraining factor. But actually, what I know from the world of innovation is that having those constraints, those guardrails, actually knowing like what's in bounds and what's out of bounds
Mhm.
is actually incredibly helpful
Yeah.
in terms of eliminating stuff that you know is not a fit,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
that's an advantage. I mean, I remember when I was graduating from college, it was like, well, I could go get a job at a nonprofit, or I could go backpacking for 3 months. Like it
Right.
was like the choices were so wide, right? It was overwhelming. Whereas if you're in midlife and you're able to say, well, I have a narrower band of
Mhm.
places I could
Yeah.
go or things I could be looking at, it actually cuts out a lot of the clutter and helps direct you to where you can actually get started. So
Mhm.
I say go for it.
Mhm.
Absolutely never too late.
You
But
said something in the beginning there, Ashley, that I think needs amplifying as well, which was about giving yourself permission.
yeah.
And you would think that at these ages, right, once you get to midlife, people would be more confident, or let's just say
Mm,
women, since we're,
Mhm.
talking as
yeah.
women, would be more confident. But sometimes the fear at that age starts to set in to the
Yeah.
point where, like you say, you have responsibilities, you have people you're caring for, you have bills and things that need to be done.
Mhm.
And they do not want to give themselves permission to shift in
Yeah.
Mhm.
any kind of way, even if it's a small change, no
Yeah.
matter how challenging their lives are, right?
Mm,
Because sometimes things happen that might be out of your control that get you to a place where you're like, no, I really need to change.
Yeah.
But they're afraid to make that change.
Right.
And I don't know if they're thinking someone else is going to give them the permission to do it, but they're having challenges allowing themselves these opportunities to make something different happen in their lives too. So what
absolutely.
would you say to some women who are like, yes, but I don't know about this giving myself permission,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're so far
Here.
removed from it, right, with their fear now that they
Mhm.
don't know where to start or what to do
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Or even if they can give themselves permission, they're kind of like, nope, I'm kind of entrenched into this box that I'm in. As much as I don't like it,
Mhm.
it's
I'm
comfortable
gonna
and
stay
it's
right here.
familiar,
Mhm.
right? It's comfortable and it's very
That's.
familiar.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're kind of, I'm actually hearing kind of two slightly different but related things. So there's the question of I'm feeling really afraid, right?
Mhm.
And when we're talking about feeling afraid, whether it's of failure or losing money or what will people think,
Mhm.
like what comes to mind for me is the concept of risk. And
Mhm.
Mm.
how do you reconcile with things that are risky, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yep. Yep.
when we've built lives around ourselves, right? It feels
Mhm.
like a risk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And with that, I would say like there are risks in everything, of course. There
Yep.
are risks crossing the street, right? Like there are risks everywhere,
Mhm.
but there are also different types of risk. And some risks are really dangerous,
Mhm.
and some risks are actually helpful.
Yeah.
Some risks are actually productive, right?
Mhm.
And there's the risk of not doing anything,
Right.
which back to our point of like we only get one shot at this,
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes the risk of not doing something is actually higher than the risk of trying,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
so I'm hearing that. And then in terms of permission, so much of my work as a coach for women in midlife, but also for myself,
Mhm.
is around learning to trust ourselves
Mhm. Mhm.
and learning that we can take risks and we can stay with ourselves
Mm-hmm.
if things go sideways,
Yeah.
or if we realize that we have made a mistake, or that we didn't like the choice that we made.
Yeah.
I think permission and self-trust feel to me really related,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be on your own side if you're writing your own permission slip,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to you
Yeah.
have to know that you're with you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that, I think, I mean, sometimes there are truly times where I'm like, everything is about learning to trust myself. Like that just feels
Yes.
like the core of the core of the core.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of factors, both, societal, systemic, our conditioning. There are lots of things outside of our individual selves that can probably take most of the responsibility for why we don't trust ourselves as women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like we
Yeah.
have to learn how to trust ourselves and to stay with ourselves, even when things are hard, even when we're afraid of failing, even when it feels risky.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, again, this is our shot,
Right.
right?
Right.
I love
No, that's absolutely
I love
right.
that. Mm-hmm.
I like this idea of writing your own permission, writing your own permission slip, right? Because like I said, I work in the school system, so we have a field trip, and you have a student going, you have to have a parent, right,
Yeah.
sign the field trip because then they'll be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But at this age, who's writing a permission slip for? Who's signing our slips, right? Like we're
Yeah.
signing our own slips, and we are saying we are being responsible for ourselves, but not
Mm-hmm.
just that, but that we can be responsible for ourselves, that we're more than capable of being responsible for ourselves because
Yeah.
we've gotten ourselves this far,
Yeah.
right? Like we've gotten ourselves this far. Why not continue to trust ourselves to
Yeah.
bring ourselves
Even
even
further.
further?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
hear you say about relationships and about, trusting yourself, giving yourself permission, the boundaries, and giving yourself grace. Have you had clients that you have worked with that who thought that they were there to do the redesign of their career, but while you're working with them and they have an aha moment and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. It is not about my career. It is about my life. It's about my
Mm.
personal life and how I am connecting with, the persons around me, my boundaries, my relationships." Have that ever happened with you with clients that you're working with?
Mm.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I would expect it too.
Mhm.
So the way I think about it is almost like if you imagine a pizza with like a bunch of slices in it, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Career and work is only one slice of the whole pie, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not going to try to drag out this metaphor any further, but
No,
like
go
the
ahead.
pieces are connected, right? Like it's
They
all
are.
one pizza, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so when you start working on one slice of the pie, it impacts the rest of it, right?
Mhm.
When you start growing your confidence in one area of your life, you can absolutely bet you're going to show up differently in other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And similarly, like there are a number of times where I work with a client who is here to talk about career.
Yeah.
And then we have to say, well, have you spoken to your partner about this?
Mm.
This is going to involve a change that affects them.
Mhm.
Or what will what impact might this have on your ability to be there at school pickup every afternoon,
Mhm.
right? Or you start to again build confidence or take on new things in work, and then you look at like your relationship with your
Right.
in-laws and you're like, I wouldn't put up with this as a boss or with my boss. Why would I put up with this with my in-laws?
Yeah.
Right? So it's you are a whole person.
Mhm.
And so for better or worse, and sometimes this is a tough one because we'd like to be compartmentalized,
Yeah.
right? But like when you go through a change process like designing your career,
Mm-hmm.
of course it's naturally going to rub off in other aspects of your life.
Right.
And I would welcome that as much as it might ruffle some feathers sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, but shouldn't it impact
Mm-hmm.
other areas of your life? I think
But
that
but your mindset may not think that it will
Mm.
going into the workshop or going into that training. You're thinking, oh, she's gonna fix me. This work is killing me. She's gonna fix it. And then you're in here going, wait, this is not just about work. There's some other stuff going on outside of work. You know what I mean?
that's
Indeed.
true because we are, as she said, we're a whole person. So
You're a
anything
whole
that
pizza.
we are doing right is going to impact all of these different areas. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's also easier sometimes to just say, "Oh, this is the problem." You don't
Mm.
want to look. You don't want to look at eat the whole pizza. I'm not sure if we should. I'm
I be sitting in the whole pizza
you
anyway.
just want one slice. Like I'm just doing one slice right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The money slice or whatever, and I'm not really going
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention to
Yeah.
anything else. But as you said, it's all interconnected. So if you make a change in this one area,
Mm-hmm.
how is that not
Going
going
to
to
affect that
impact,
area as
yes,
well.
like your relationships or your
Yeah.
friendships or your financial situation or your work or your career, right? You have, I saw something, there's a pie, it's some kind of life pie or
Yeah.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and it has
Mm-hmm.
all of these different, categories,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to look and see how you feel like you're doing in certain categories,
Mm-hmm.
and then make, different adjustments, right? So if you feel like, oh, in the financial slice of the pie I'm at a 9,
Yeah.
but in the relationships, I'm at like a 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like people don't really take time to look at their life holistically like that
Right.
very
Mm-hmm.
often.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They look at areas that aren't doing well, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but not holistically to see where it is that they can make adjustments, like you said, because making one adjustment in one area is going to impact the other
Yeah.
areas as
Yeah.
well, negatively
Yeah.
or positively,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
taking that
I
time.
have to say I'm laughing a bit at myself at the example that I might offer, but again, I'm not perfect at this, right? Like I'm still learning as much as everyone
I
else
love
is, right?
examples.
No, no, I'm
I
telling you,
love
I've seen this
examples.
life thing, and it's like a
Yeah,
circle, and it
it
is
is.
sliced. So that's
Yeah,
exactly what I thought
yeah.
about when you said that. So it's very
Absolutely.
good, very good.
Absolutely. No, so I own my own business, right? And I've been self-employed now for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Congratulations.
thank
Yes,
you. Thank
congratulations.
you.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because I realized just maybe 6 months ago or so that I don't have to carry around the doubt anymore as to whether or not my business is working because
Wow.
I have been in business for
Mm,
8 years
Mm-hmm.
and
mm,
I have lots of data to show me that in fact my business is working, right?
Yeah.
mm.
So that aha set off a whole new kind of layer of uncovering my self trust and
Yeah.
the blind spots I have and the places where I don't write my own permission slip and where I give my power away or I let other people decide things or frankly I put other people first, right? It's
Mm.
really interesting. Again, like this was an aha in my business, and 6 months later, literally just this past weekend,
Yeah.
I was like up to my, the top of my head with my sweet, sweet family because I said, enough. I am so ready to stop doing XYZ for you.
Yeah.
Right. Like and so I won't get into the details and all the drama and all that,
We
but
probably
that to your point, like it's almost, what is that idea of like the butterfly effect, that the butterfly flaps its wings and then you have a
Mhm,
tsunami on the other side of the world? Like
mhm.
I had this awakening in about my business and about the fact that I can trust that I have created something that is working and
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need to be
Mhm,
anxious about it.
mhm.
And that over time has translated into, you know what? I think actually I do know what I'm talking about when
Yeah.
it comes to my
Yeah.
family and when it comes to what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And
Mhm.
it's led to some big conversations
Mhm.
and some changes on the home front, right? And that's good.
That is a good
Again, that's what we want. That's what we
yeah.
want.
I love
I
this.
love
So
it.
this
I
reminds me
do.
of something. So
What it
there was
is, Kanisha,
a
tell us.
time it when you're talking about how so what you said about how you made this one change, you had this one revelation in your
Mhm.
life about your career, and then it made you kind of stronger, in another area to see these other revelations, and bring that to your family. It reminded me of something that I learned about myself, about courage,
Yeah,
and
Mm,
about when you do things that you find to be courageous, then other people see it. It also has that effect on them,
yeah,
because then they can become more courageous. And it reminded me of, so Denise was telling us, so we have this, Wisdom in Bloom podcast where we talk to women, and she was saying last week that her daughters are now saying, oh my gosh, we want to do like a little spin-off of our Wisdom in Bloom like podcast, for like younger girls.
mhm.
And when you do things that are courageous for yourself, you don't know how it's going to impact
Yeah,
other people,
yeah.
but it does. It
It
yes.
really, it does. It's like it gives them a chance to say, hey, if she can do that thing, then maybe I can do that thing. Or
Mhm.
maybe I can do something else different that I kind of
Mhm.
thought I wanted to do. But now that she's done that, then it gives, it lets you kind of look at yourself and see what else you might be able to be courageous in.
That's right.
So
Mhm.
that's what I thought about when you shared that story.
Yeah,
Because
it's so
it's not
true.
just you, it's also all of those things that you touch, right? Back to that pie, right? All
Yeah,
of those people and relationships and things that you touch, they're impacted as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what do you say to women, especially midlife women who want to shift their mindset and they are committed to doing the 100 days of intentional change? You know, what mindset shift needs to happen first? What needs
Mhm.
to
Mm,
happen so they can kind of jumpstart their journey into this intentional change or this shift?
yeah. It's interesting because as so much of our conversation has been about this interplay of, again, of being and doing. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
how should we be
right there.
thinking? How should we be feeling? What
Mm,
should we be doing? And like, which one comes first?
yeah,
Right.
And, what comes to mind is, whether it's working through my journals for 100 days or just saying, I'm going to get started, right?
Mhm.
Um, again, I know there are plenty of times where we all have the urge to run into our boss's office and rage quit on the spot, right? But like, who I've felt that.
mhm.
But that's not the way forward with sustainable change. And it's just not good in so many ways for us, for our bank account, for our bodies, for our families, right? So for someone who wants to get started, it's both a mindset and an action, I think. And the question I would
Mhm.
offer is, what is the smallest thing that you could do or try today to get started?
I
Right?
love
And
that question.
you could add in not just what is the smallest, but maybe what is the fastest,
Mhm,
maybe
Mhm.
what is the cheapest,
mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The lightest weight baby step that you can start with today to get going,
I love
knowing that when you take a step,
mhm.
you learn something, first of all,
Yeah,
right? So
Mhm.
let's just make this really practical. Let's say someone is like, okay, Ashley said my first step should be pausing to reflect and be honest. So I'm going to take, what's the fastest, smallest, cheapest thing I could do? I'm going to take
mhm.
5 minutes with my cup of coffee and I'm going to journal. I'm just going to
Yeah,
free associate and see what comes up, right?
mhm,
Okay, so you did that. Now
mhm.
you have 5 minutes worth of notes, right? That you have
Mhm.
likely learned something through, right?
Right,
So
Mhm.
you've
right.
learned a bit. Maybe it's about what's important about this, or it's what's aggravating me today, or what am I just thinking about right now, right?
Mhm.
That pause to reflect and be honest. So
Yeah,
not only have you learned something by doing that really small action, but you've
mhm.
actually started to shift your mindset, right? Because you've
Mhm.
said, wait a minute, I did that one time. I bet I could do it again, right?
Right.
And so then maybe the next day you're like, you know what? I really enjoyed that. I think I could do it a little bit longer, or maybe I'd like to take my journal to the park because that feels more inspiring to me. Right. And so
Mhm.
then you do it again. And oh my goodness, I'm learning more and I'm continuing. I'm building confidence. I'm starting to pay attention to my inner voice. Right. So
Mhm.
always start with the smallest thing you
I love
can do,
that. I love
knowing that it will compound over time. You'll learn and you'll develop more confidence in yourself the more you practice it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The smallest, the cheapest, the fastest, that
Yeah.
one thing, whatever hits you the most in that smallest. I love that. I love
I
that.
like the smallest
I
one,
love it.
especially. I
Yeah.
mean, they're all good, but because sometimes when people have big ideas and big goals, they get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and when they get overwhelmed, then they get paralyzed,
That's
and then they don't do anything
that's right.
because they think it's so big. So
Mm-hmm.
if you start in the direction, as you're saying, with just something tiny where you can at least feel like you're getting started,
Yeah.
then it will build the momentum,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
you're trying
Yeah.
to get to
Yeah.
move in that direction.
You know,
Mhm.
you make me think. I chuckle a little bit because this is actually quite an example that hits very close to home. So when my husband and I first got married many years ago, um, we got married. I started business school, and he got a job at a bank. Okay,
Mhm.
so the first semester of business school, we were newlyweds. We hardly saw each other. Like,
Mhm.
I joke that somehow he grew a beard and I had no awareness of it. Like, I just looked at him one day and he had a beard. But I will never forget coming home from, being in a windowless team room for 13 hours or something in the middle of winter in Boston. And I open the door and he looks at me straight on and he says, "I want to open up a restaurant." And I was like, "You're a data analyst. Like, what are you talking about? You know?" And so, you know, he could have quit his job because he hated working at the bank,
Yeah.
and he could have gone right into leasing that however many thousand square foot, kitchen, and he
Mhm.
could have sunk our minuscule life savings into it, right? And that would have been a really big risk with a really high chance of failure,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's kind of funny, but like, we've all been there. We've all been like, I would love to quit my job and become a pastry chef, or like,
Have a
Mhm.
you
food
know,
truck.
yeah, I have a food truck, or be an artist and just make paintings all day long. And, and those are amazing goals. Those are amazing milestones to reach, right? But
Mhm.
when you start thinking about what is the smallest, fastest, cheapest thing I could try,
Yeah.
right, to sort of kick the tires on my idea that I want to open up a restaurant, for example. Well, maybe it's going to culinary school, but I would offer that that's actually still really big,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Maybe it's signing up for like a cooking class.
Mhm.
And I would say actually that may even still be too big.
Yeah.
Maybe it's pulling that cookbook off the bookshelf and opening it up and saying, like, I'm going to try this recipe and see if I enjoy cooking it,
Can
right?
he
Right.
cook?
The small, what's that?
Can he cook?
He can. Although I cook a
Ooh.
lot more now. I've claimed the chef's role in our family, but he's really talented. He
Yeah.
is. But that's the idea. Like, you don't have, what's that? You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like,
Right.
there's a
Start
Right.
small.
reason to start small.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
If you could tell your younger self, if you had two things
Oh,
that you could go back and
how
say
much younger?
to let's say 17, 16, 17, if you could look at your surroundings and your concept of life now, and you had a chance to go back and tell your 17-year-old two things that'll help them on this journey, what would those two things be?
Mm. Denise, how did you know that this was something I was just thinking about the other day?
No way.
I
Reggie.
was. I was. I truly was. Okay, so I'm glad you've given me two. So the first I think I would say is that it's all worth it. And
Ooh.
by that I mean all the twists and turns that I've been on. You know, so much of my career has felt a bit like a patchwork quilt where I did something, I took a job and was like, I don't know how this makes any sense, but I'm going to do this. And then I would jump over to something else. I don't know how this makes any sense. This patchwork quilt in the end has all brought me to the place that I'm at right now. And the place that I'm at right now is really lovely. And so I would love to give my 17-year-old self the reassurance that there's really no wrong move because it's all brought me to a really lovely place. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the first thing. And then, okay, this is maybe a little vulnerable, but I'll share
Mhm.
what I was thinking about was if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would really love to tell her how beautiful she is. Because I
Oh.
think,
Love that.
I mean, we all have different stories,
Yeah.
right? And senses of ourselves. And I can see now at this point in my life how much time and energy and brain space I applied to feeling deficient in
Yeah.
different ways, you
Yeah.
know? And I look back on like photos of myself and
Yeah.
I mean my
Wasn't that great?
eyebrows were a little fuller and like I was a little awkward and all that, but like I was
So was
beautiful
everyone else at
and I
that
would
age.
love to tell her that.
Oh, I love
Love it.
that.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I love
Yeah.
That's a great question. What would you say, Denise, to yourself?
Yeah.
Just one thing, not two things. Just give
No,
yourself
you're
one
not
thing.
supposed to ask me. No, I'm kidding. You know what? I do think about this all the time. I really do.
Mm,
And I would tell myself, um, it always makes me emotional every time I even think about it. But I would tell myself to give myself grace. Don't be
mm,
so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. You don't have to be perfect. Perfect is not around you. That doesn't mean that you're flawed. It's just your
mm,
journey. And because of this journey, you're going to be something that someone else will need to hear about. And, you know, even going through the ugly stuff, someone else needs to know about it. And to just give yourself grace, it's not your fault. I would tell
mm.
That's so
It's
great.
What about you,
beautiful.
Kamisha? What would you tell your younger self?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I should have been thinking about this as you guys, as you ladies were talking. I'm like, I'm sure it's gonna come back to me. Um, hmm. Well, you know what? I would tell myself. Well, it's two things. Well, let me pick one. Okay,
It's
I'm gonna
hard. It's hard.
I know it's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Um, but
You
actually, I
know
was
why? You know why it's difficult? You know why? Because when sometimes when you're asked that question, see, be thinking now while I'm talking, Kamisha. Sometimes when you're asked that question, 1,000 things run through your head because you're
right.
trying to place yourself in that time, in that era, at that very moment. Because we don't remember a lot of things around us, but we remember how we feel.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Always remember how you feel, and so I think that question, it hits you like a ton of bricks because you're like, first, how was I feeling then? What was going on then?
Right.
And if I knew someone at that age right now today that was going through the exact thing I was going through, what would I tell that person?
Yeah.
And then
Right.
that's what makes me think that I should tell her, you know, younger Denise that too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say I would tell my younger self, you can always choose again. That's what
Mm,
I would tell my younger self.
mm,
Because at that age, I was so concerned about making the right decision,
Yeah.
doing the right thing,
Yeah.
not disappointing people,
yeah.
and if I did, I wasn't sure like how to get out of that,
Yeah.
right? Because you feel like you can't let down people,
That's right.
and that if you make a different decision, then my life is going to be horrible,
Yeah.
right? And so I would tell myself that you can always choose again.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so if you've made a decision or you've selected something or decided to do something and it didn't go your way, you don't have to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always shift.
You have permission
Love it.
to do that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this week, Kamisha, the slogan in the house this week, all week, has been "You can choose again."
No, it hasn't.
Yes, I swear, because me and okay, so I don't
What?
know if you remember. I don't remember if you remember last week I was telling you that my granddaughter is having a hard
Oh,
time.
deciding for her
Yeah,
colleges.
for her
Yes.
college, and she just decided, and she came to me. She was like, "Well, suppose I don't like it. Suppose this, suppose that." And I said, "Well, I had a conversation with Kamisha a week ago, and she said she told a student, 'You can choose again.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to choose again.'" So every single day this week, we look at each other and we go, "You can choose again. Don't quit. You can choose again. You can always choose again." So that has been the slogan this whole week. You
Oh my
have
God.
permission to choose again. That's your permission slip.
Yeah.
You
Oh my
can choose
God.
again.
So it's like it comes full circle because
Yes.
I do,
Mhm.
like, I tell my students, I work in a high school, and I was actually, it wasn't a student I was telling this to the first time I told it. It was a teacher, like a young teacher.
Mhm.
And, education is not what it used to be. People
Yeah.
get into it
Yeah.
and they get, disillusioned and all of this stuff. And she wanted to do something else, but she's like, I don't want to let my family down.
Mhm.
I come from a family of teachers and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I said, you can always choose again. She's like, what? What do you mean? Like, you should write that on your board. You should write that on your board. And then I started thinking, like, this is actually what I wanted to hear. I needed somebody to
Yeah.
tell me something like
Yeah.
that when I was younger, even younger than her, right?
Yeah.
Because especially as women, I feel like we're always trying to do the right thing, right? We're trying to be
Mhm.
Yeah.
perfect in all these areas.
Mhm.
And so that is so funny. When you were telling me that story about your granddaughter, I was like, yep, there we go with that. Choose again.
And choose
But I
again.
didn't know you were spreading this around the house now.
Yes. Oh, yes, 'cause when my son had this situation, I said, "Well, choose again." I said, "You can
Oh, so
choose
now that's your
again."
thing.
So that is like, no, and I tell him, I said, "Kamisha said we can choose again."
Oh my gosh.
Because
I can't wait to go to my son and say,
yeah,
Kamisha said we can choose again.
because I don't know what it is, but that conversation, it did something to me. Like, it really broke something in me that was in
Mm.
bondage, because my whole
Mm,
life I felt like I've chosen for others and I've stayed there because
Mm.
I felt like I had to, that I
Right.
would be looked at different or I'd be judged. And that fear has stopped me from choosing
mm.
again. There is freedom in being
Yeah.
able to choose again. But it's almost like we have this invisible cage that makes
That
us,
we put ourselves in,
yeah,
right?
that no one put us there. We put ourselves there. And a little bit of what society thinks says that women should be, do,
Mhm,
and have,
Right.
mhm.
you know, that we don't think we could choose again. Maybe they can choose for us, but we can't choose again. Of course, not us, but
Mm-hmm.
we can choose again.
Oh, I love that.
So good. So
Yeah.
good.
Thank you, Ashley. This has been great. This has been a great conversation. And before we wrap it up, I am going to ask you, do you have any, last, parting words for our listeners? This has been a phenomenal interview. You are such a delight. You're such a cheer. You're such a great energy and a breath of fresh air. And I'm just so happy that you chose the Wisdom and Bloom platform to spread this information. We are going to wrap this up, ask you for some last parting words, but we're also, after we wrap up, when we end this, we're going to ask you to stay on with us for 5 or 10 minutes to give us some nuggets for our Patreons. And this is only going to be for our patrons. So if you do not subscribe to our Patreon platform, you will not get these great nuggets
Oh,
from
okay.
Ashley Jablow. So you're going to have to go over to Patreon, subscribe, and you will be able to start getting some extra nuggets, some extra things that you can do to start shifting your mindset as you are in this midlife journey.
That's
Okay?
right. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
how fun. I love
I
it.
know. I'm excited.
So, what are your last parting words, Miss Ashley, for our listeners today?
This has just been such a joy. And I guess I would just, actually, with that, I would say this can be joyful. right? We often approach, whether it's designing our lives or recalibrating or just making changes, we approach it from a place of it's such a slog and it's
Mhm.
going to be so hard. And I don't know what the right choice is and all of that. And I would encourage people to look for the joy. This can
Mhm.
be a joyful process. It can be one that actually can be really fun and creative and purposeful and just try to bring some lightness into this as well, whether that's thinking about where are you going to end up? Like, what does that future vision look like? Maybe it looks like, finding joy through partnership, bringing a friend in to do this with you, right? To always kind of keep you grounded and having a good time with it. But find ways to make this process fun and joyful if you can.
Yeah. Love it.
Yes.
I
I
love it.
love that.
I love it. Any parting words from Miss Kamisha? Because I mean, we got our slogan for the week. Do y'all remember?
No, no. My parting words are, ladies, you can always choose again.
Choose
You can
again.
always choose again. Give yourself
Absolutely.
permission, and joy is open to you, right?
Yeah.
Joy is open to you.
Yeah. It sure is.
So thank you so much, ladies. We love our bloomers, and keep blooming, ladies. Keep
Keep
blooming.
moving, ladies.
Oh my goodness.